I think that we're very close to this collapse being triggered. What are the indications for that? Well, most profoundly, what has been done to interest rates and where they are now and the scale of the insolvencies that are out there. They're not being discussed. They're being covered up. The only way that the financial system has not collapsed is that there is a big hidden hand injecting lots of created money directly into the financial markets, holding them up right now, as well as allowing institutions to believe they have downside risk by buying protection in the derivatives market, the combination of those things. So this support, the hidden hand as I call it, can be withdrawn at the time of their choosing. But we're getting late in this process given what's already happened to the interest rates. The other indication of timing is the bank resolution, the documents of the Bank Resolution Authority in Europe. Their planning cycle documents were mandating all of the globally systemically important banks to be ready for solvent wind down at the end of last year, 2022. Now, what they mean by solvent wind down is not wind down of the entire bank on a solvent basis. It will be parts of the bank that will remain solvent. But they've literally mandated that they have to be ready, the biggest banks, to go flat on all of their derivatives positions in a controlled way suddenly. So they've prepared for that. That is operational as of the end of last year. Now, in this year's planning cycle document, they are saying that they are on track to have completed all their work by the end of this year, 2023. So these are indications. To give you another idea of the seriousness of this, they've been running these trilateral exercises with Britain and the EU and the US for 6 of the 7 past years. I think they may have missed a year during COVID. But in these exercises, from the U.S. side, the participants are the U.S. Treasury Secretary, the Chairman of the Federal Reserve, the Chairman of the FDIC, the heads of all these entities in this exercise, which I've never seen before with anything. So they're very, very serious about this. And these exercises are about assuring the cross-border transfer of the collateral when the banks are put into wind down. So you noted
there's little basis for thinking that the economy is in a recession now. I would say that. I think there's always a probability that there will be a recession in the next year, and it's a meaningful probability no matter what the economy is doing. So it's always a real possibility. The question is it? So it's a possibility here. I have always felt since the beginning that there was a possibility because of the unusual situation that the economy could cool off in a way that enabled inflation to come down without the kind of large job losses that have often been associated with high inflation and tightening cycles. So far, that's what we're seeing. That's what many forecasters on and off the committee are seeing. This result is not guaranteed. It is far too early to declare victory, and there are certainly risks. It's certainly possible that the economy will behave in an unexpected way. It has done that repeatedly through in the post-pandemic period. Nonetheless, where we are is we see the things that I mentioned.
The idea had been by central banks to introduce this, as we said, central bank digital currency. But have you ever seen an article or a video or, whatever description of what it actually looks like? I mean, with central bank paper money, we know what it looks like, right?
Yeah.
Bank digital currency, we know, and, we've used it ourselves. We know what it looks like. But what does central bank digital currency look like? You see? So they never talk about that because people won't actually like the looks of it.
Yeah.
Because it apparently looks, and several central banks apparently, as I heard from my sources, have already fully developed the final stage of CBDC. I mean, it comes in stages, initially likely through your mobile phone, but that's only an intermediate step. And the final stage is, it's small, and it's the size of a grain of rice. Now, why is that?
And that grain of rice is your entire wallet, or?
Yes, it's your digital ID, your wallet, can be your passport, your key. Now, of course, what we found with our debit cards or credit cards is they've already now moved to the system, RFID chips, RFID technology where you just wave the thing, contactless.
Yes.
That is sort of the conditioning us in this direction. That in the future you'll just wave your hand because you've got the microchip implant under your skin, and because and each step there's a rational reason. It's easier just to wave this, isn't it? It's much faster because we always have to wait in the queues as everyone types in their numbers and all that. So just wave it, it's quicker. But the next rationalization would be, but you can lose your card, somebody can steal your card, and then you're just waving. That's kind of risky. Wouldn't it be nice if you couldn't lose it and nobody could steal it? But it's clear that that's it is almost a step too far for a lot of people, because it is a violation of human dignity to actually inject something like that under the skin. So that's where you need some more persuasion.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that this concept of universal basic income has been around for around a century, where everyone should get some kind of citizens, payment. But the billionaire elites have so far not liked that. But since 2015, they've all come out. I mean, all the big billionaires and World Economic Forum have come out. Oh, this is a good idea. Universal basic income. Well, why suddenly now? Because now we have the technology for the microchip implant. And so in 2017, Bill Gates came out and said that universal basic income is a good idea, but it's too early to introduce it. Now, what was still missing? So we had the technology for the microchip implant, but what was missing was the digital ID hadn't been introduced. Now, this is where this whole COVID agenda had become very useful.
And what you haven't been paying attention to is the fact that quietly, behind the scenes, every major bank in the country has been launching blockchain programs and products and services, some for their institutional clients, others for their retail accounts. Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, BlackRock, Schwab, Fidelity, you name it. And the Fortune 500's been all over this too. Starbucks, Nike, Western Union, PayPal, Walmart, Disney, Breitling, Ferrari, Tiffany's, every major sports league, football, baseball, basketball, soccer, golf, hockey. And with all of this, Bitcoin is up this year. And investors are starting to pay attention. And they're beginning to flood the market. Without a doubt, the leading reason for all of this is widespread expectation that the SEC will finally, after 10 years of attempts by the crypto community, the SEC will finally approve a spot Bitcoin ETF, just like we have thousands of spot equity ETFs with trillions of dollars invested in them. There are now 13 companies asking for SEC approval, not just small ETF issuers like WisdomTree and Van Eck, or crypto companies like Grayscale, Bitwise, and Hashdex, but the very biggest ETF providers in the world, BlackRock, Fidelity, Franklin Templeton, Global X, and Invesco. These 13 companies are going to be going head-to-head with aggressive marketing campaigns to win market share, so you can watch for lots of ads on CNBC and during NFL games. 75% of advisors say they have not been investing in Bitcoin yet for their clients because there hasn't been any Bitcoin ETF available to them. But as soon as those ETFs are available, those advisors say they're going to jump in, with allocations ranging from 1 to 5% of client assets. Independent RIAs manage $8 trillion. If 3/4 of those RIAs start to use these ETFs and they allocate just 2% of client assets, you do the math. $8 trillion times 75% engagement times a 2% allocation, that equals $150 billion in new assets flowing into Bitcoin. And the number of Bitcoin that exists is locked, which means the supply doesn't grow while the demand does. Bitcoin's market cap right now is only about $900 billion. Guess what adding $150 billion more will do to the price? And that's just the independent RIAs. I haven't even mentioned the trillions of dollars that's being managed by financial advisors who work at the big brokerage firms, or the trillions of dollars that's being managed by family offices, or the trillions of dollars that are held by institutional investors like insurance companies and pension funds and endowments. You think they're not going to get engaged as well? Some of them already are. MetLife, MassMutual, the Houston Police Pension Fund, the endowment funds at Harvard, Yale, Stanford, UNC, dozens more. And now that the FASB has changed the accounting rules for public corporations, the Financial Accounting Standards Board, the Fortune 500 can now buy Bitcoin in their treasury without harming their financial statements. Michael Saylor of MicroStrategy is...
And so, what are your overall thoughts on XRP, if you have any? And if you don't, that's fine.
So I was taken down the XRP rabbit hole by Santiago Velez, who's a good friend and is incredibly smart guy and very thoughtful. So he's like, yeah, the narrative's wrong. This is what it's about. So I'd done a bit of the work on it. Then the court case came out, and so that's when I bought XRP. You know, when you see something like that, it's like, okay, now the price has been massively discounted.
Yeah.
We know it's a real thing. Half the people have been shut out of the market. This is the opportunity of a lifetime. So that's when I bought it, and I've held it ever since.
Yeah, well, you know, it was I bought more after the lawsuit, and it reminded me of the time when Jamie Dimon said that Bitcoin was a fraud for the first time. I bought more Bitcoin on that particular day as well, because I said if it threatens him to the point where he's going to go that hard, there's got to be something to this. Anyway,
you know, the reason I bought XRP was exactly the same way that I bought Solana, which was like the crisis arrives. Price gets absolutely smashed, but I can see that there is a vibrant community with real use cases of the chain going on, not kind of ghost use, it's real use. So in which case, time to put your capital at work. Simple as that.
Yeah, you know, one of the other big questions, Raul, was are you optimistic? What's your overall optimism moving forward with this space? Because you clearly are one of the true leaders out there who rejects tribalism, you're chain agnostic. And I think the best answer is, I asked you this off air, but how much of your time is spent on crypto versus traditional finance today?
I mean, look, I use a traditional finance investment framework, but really 99%, well, 100% of my liquid net worth is in crypto, 100%. And it has been for 3 years. It is what I really enjoy. Yes, I'm really interested in technology and this exponential age and AI and robotics and all of that. I do invest in that space as well, but my first love is crypto. I mean, I just love the whole space. I love the people in it. I love the pace of it. I love what it stands for. I love the fight.
Yep,
the system changing in front of your eyes. I mean, these are amazing things. You know, what a time to be alive, to be part of this.
Start out talking about what the end game for crypto regulation from the SEC's perspective is, right? We've seen a very aggressive enforcement strategy from Gensler, or I guess spearheaded by Gensler's direction, right? What is this an appropriate approach to regulation? If it's appropriate, is it effective for promoting the SEC's mandates?
Well, Joshua, thank you for having me here, and it's great to get a chance to speak with you, and thank you to all of you as well. I do want to give you my disclaimer, which I know you know and probably know that I don't need to give because you all know it, but my views are my own views as a commissioner, not necessarily those of the SEC or my fellow commissioners. And I think that this is what makes it somewhat difficult for me to talk about a lot of these issues, because you know, when I look at what the SEC is doing in crypto, I think I ask a lot of the same questions that a lot of you in this room are asking, which is exactly that. What is the end game? What are we trying to achieve here? Because it's clear that the approach that we've taken so far has not resulted in better investor consumer protection or, you know, massive, ability for us, I would say, to monitor what's going on in the industry. It's just been quite a lot of confusion, and I think that hasn't really served anyone, including us, well. So I've kind of gone back and forth when I think about what the end game is. You know, is the end game just to say, look, we don't want crypto in the US, and so, you know, we'll make it so hard for you to be here that you can just move offshore? Or is it just to really try to force crypto into a mold of entities that we're more familiar with and more used to regulating? So I really can't guess. I mean, I guess, but I can't tell you definitively what the answer is on that. But I think what we should really be doing is focusing on a better end game, which would be to provide regulatory clarity, work with the industry to get to a place where things that should be regulated by the SEC are regulated by the SEC, and people can clearly know when they're in that bucket or not.
So